Pakistan today is facing the wrath of its own creation, the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, a Frankenstein that Islamabad once nurtured has now become its worst internal enemy. In its pursuit of so-called strategic depth in Afghanistan, Pakistan backed and empowered extremist factions for decades. But today, that very policy has come back to haunt it. The TTP, once sheltered by Pakistan, is now executing deadly attacks inside its cities, security bases, and tribal belts. We decode how Pakistan created the monster that now threatens to devour its own state structure.
It is a cruel irony that for 20 years Pakistan aided the Taliban in their fight against the West, only to now find itself in their crosshairs. It gave them shelter in tribal areas, funded them, and helped them return to power in Kabul in 2021. But now, the same ideology that Pakistan backed is turning on it with full force. The Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, born out of Pakistan's own tribal regions, has declared a jihad on the Pakistani state. And it is not just operating from the shadows, it is operating from within.
The TTP is not just a security challenge, it is a strategic indictment of decades of double games and denial. Every time Pakistan has tried to use terrorists for its tactical foreign policy goals, terror has come back stronger to bite them. Pakistan hasn't learnt that terrorism is not a tap. You can't turn it on and off.
The Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan was formed in December 2007 as a unified militant front following the Pakistan Army's brutal siege of Lal Masjid in Islamabad earlier that year. The crackdown had killed dozens of students, most of whom hailed from the tribal belt. In retaliation, several militant factions came together to form the TTP with the stated aim of waging jihad against the Pakistani state and enforcing Sharia law. The formation of the TTP was not just a spontaneous reaction, it was the inevitable fallout of years of Pakistan Army's sponsorship of extremism in the tribal areas. The same tribal networks that had been used by Pakistan to support the Afghan Taliban were now coalescing into a domestic insurgency. Pakistan had quite literally laid the foundation for its own internal rebellion.
The Afghan Taliban and the TTP are ideological twins. They share a common ideology and tribal ties. They share a common religious doctrine. To the Taliban in Kabul, the TTP is not a terror group. It's a fellow jihadist movement. What Pakistan did not seem to have factored in is that after the US invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, when the Taliban were on the run, it were the tribal elements of Fatah that had sheltered them, with the blessings and encouragement of the Pakistan Army. The group not only provided shelter to the Taliban in Pakistan's tribal areas, but also fought alongside them against the US and NATO forces. They had provided valuable logistical and operational support, including suicide bombers. Today, those tribal elements are grouped as the TTP. Under Pashtunwali, the Pashtun Code of Honor, the Afghan Taliban have an obligation to provide the TTP shelter in Afghanistan to return the favor.
In 2014, Pakistan tried to crush the TTP after the world-shocking Peshawar school massacre, where 132 children were gunned down. Operation Zarb-e-Azb drove them out, but it did not destroy them. Today, a decade later, the TTP is back, more organized, better armed, and far more deadly. In 2024 alone, over 450 terrorist attacks rocked Pakistan, killing nearly 40 security personnel each month.
Now, 10 years on, the TTP is back, stronger, more defined, and better armed. It is wreaking havoc across the country, primarily targeting Pakistan's security forces. there are no signs of abatement. And it is not operating from caves or hiding in remote hills in the tribal areas. It is striking in mainland Pakistan and Pakistan's cities.
The Afghan Taliban, once sheltered by Pakistan's tribal allies, have now returned the favor. Hundreds of TTP fighters were released from Afghan prisons after the Taliban takeover in 2021. The group now enjoys safe havens in Afghanistan, modern American weapons left behind by US forces, and tribal loyalties that the Pakistani state cannot penetrate.
Key factor has been the Taliban return to power in Kabul in August 2021. Pakistan believed it had gained strategic depth, that the Afghan Taliban would now crack down on the TTP. That didn't happen. Pakistan's great strategic gamble backfired. The opposite happened. The Afghan Taliban declined to contain, disarm, or act against the TTP. Hundreds of TTP fighters were released from Afghan prisons. The TTP found new sanctuaries across the border in Afghanistan. The Taliban provided tacit support and armed the TTP.
Since 2020, over 30 radical groups have merged with the TTP. It has expanded beyond its original base in Waziristan into Balochistan, Punjab and Gilgit-Baltistan. By aligning with various militant groups, the TTP is now expanding its ideological reach, attacking military outposts, police units, and even targeting Chinese interests inside Pakistan. In 2022, Pakistan, desperate and cornered, even initiated talks with the TTP. The mediator, the Afghan Taliban. The result, prisoners were released, commanders returned, and a ceasefire was announced, only to collapse within months. The TTP's demands were outrageous: Sharia rule, reversal of Fatah's merger, and withdrawal of army troops from the tribal belt. From being the manipulator of terror networks, Pakistan now finds itself manipulated, with rising internal chaos, political disunity, and an army out of ideas.